Alright, what's up guys? New deck profile. This is one I'm always very excited to do, which is Lair of Darkness, one of my favorite decks of all time. A ton of new stuff has happened that is very positive for the deck. Skill drains off the list. We've got new support in Alice. We've got new support with some other cards. Really, really great improvement to the deck. Also, one card just got announced. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's another Lair of Darkness monster, so we'll see where that gets us, but right now, I'm very excited to do this deck profile. So right off the bat, playing 2 copies of Tour Guide. This might look a little stupid and crazy, but we'll get around to why it's 2 copies. We got to get the ratios right. And we play 1 copy of Tour Bus of the Underworld. This, again, might as well be an alternate art, but whatever. This card, again, I'll show you. I'll do a little combo at the end, a little demonstration of why we play this card. Honestly, if you want, you can just play the third Tour Guide instead of playing this. But I like having this just as an option. So you play 2 copies of that, 1 copy of that. Yeah, because this card basically works as kind of like a little interruption. It's almost like a... if you do the combo right, it's basically like a DD Crow almost. But it shuffles back instead. 3 copies of Lilith, Lady of Lament. She's very, very good. Obviously, she's probably the most important monster in the deck. She allows you to reveal 3 traps, and then your opponent picks one at random, sets it in the back row. She's very, very good. 1 copy of the new card, Alice, Lady of Lament. She's really, really good. Again, I would play more of her, but I don't really need to because I use the Ties of the Brethren build. I don't need to play more than 1 of her. I might bump her to 2. We'll see how it goes as I kind of play more of this deck, but I have been actually playing this a lot. So basically, a normal summon, she can special summon a Lady of Lament monster from your graveyard. So that effect is really, really good. And then on top of that, she can special summon herself by banishing a trap. And the third effect, which is really also very good, and actually quite versatile, is when she's tributed or destroyed by your opponent's card effect, you can search a Fiend monster with 2,000 total attack and defense. The pool on that is actually kind of decent, but basically you can search any of the Lady of Lament chicks, and then you can also search Tour Guide, Tour Bus. You can also search a lot of very interesting things along with that. You can also search, for example, there's a tuner Fiend that can switch to your opponent's side of the board that basically floodgates them. You can also search Token Collector with this card when she's tributed, which is extremely cool. But yeah, this card is very good, very versatile. Might bump her to 2. She actually is really, really good. As of right now, I've been playing her at 1. It's not like she's bad at 1, but there are some situations where I'm like, man, I wish I would have drawn another one. 1 copy of Sangan. Again, this is just this works with the Ties of the Brethren combo. But yeah, you play 1 copy of that. 3 copies of Arima. This you can discard to get yourself the Lair of Darkness field spell. In addition to that, if this card you tribute on your side of the field, you can draw a card. But if you tribute another monster other than this card using this effect, you can search a dark monster with 2,000 or more defense, which actually you can search the... And this is great for consistency. You can actually search the Alice, Lady of Lament with the Arima, which is really cool, because that just makes it that much more consistent. Because like if you draw Ties of the Brethren, but you don't draw a copy of... If you draw Ties of the Brethren, but you didn't draw a copy of the field spell, you could just activate this, tribute another monster, and then search the Alice, normal summon Alice, and now you can just go off like that if you really needed to. But yeah, he's good for that. And then, of course, the next card he can search is the Lord of the Heavenly Prison. This card is extremely good. This actually, for me, replaced the Diabolos. Diabolos is really, really good, but he's just not defensive enough. Like, he doesn't provide you anything other than, like, he's a free special summon, and then he gets rid of a card in your opponent's turn, but he doesn't actually, like, play that well in the deck. This card, I think, is a lot better in the deck. Not only is it searchable just like Diabolos, but also what it does is you reveal it, and then your back row cannot be destroyed. And then if a back row card gets activated, you can special summon him. And if you special summon him while he's revealed, you can then set any spell or trap card into your back row. Like any. It doesn't matter what it is. It's Pot of Prosperity, skill drain. It doesn't matter what you set, and then it gets banished during the end of the next turn. So it doesn't really matter what you set because you're going to activate it the next turn anyway. This card is really, really good. It functions very well with the deck. Most of the time, you can get like Metaverse down there. You can get Terraforming down there. You can even set your field spell directly. This card has amazing synergy with the deck. I would say better than Diabolos. Then we play 2 copies of Ash. Ash is searchable, so Ash is not the biggest deal because it's actually searchable in the deck. So playing 2 copies may seem weird, but it's cool. If you open with 1, you can just search something else. I play 5 total hand traps in this. Generally, I think that's a pretty good ratio. So 2 Ash plus it's searchable. And then we play 1 copy of Token Collector. This is our last hand trap. This card is, again, overperforms. It's very good against... You have to remember, the best deck in the game right now, the best 2 decks are Sword Soul and Adventure variants of decks. So, like, Adventure variants of Phantom Knights, for example. Those decks are the best decks in the game. This completely destroys those decks. It stops tokens. When a token is summoned, you activate this, special summon it, destroy the token. You can't, and then no more tokens can be special summoned. This card totally wrecks tokens, and this is actually searchable 2 ways. You can search this off Sangan, and you actually can search this off of the... Where is it? You can search this off of the Alice Lady of Lament. So either way, you are going to search the Token Collector. Now, you're saying, okay, you're playing Token Collector, but isn't that a bit inconsistent? It is a bit inconsistent because not every single deck summons tokens, except your field spell, Lair of Darkness, actually does summon tokens. Every single end phase for every monster tributed, you basically have to, it mandatory has to summon tokens to the turn player. So let's say you tributed 2 monsters during your opponent's turn. You summon 2 tokens to your opponent's side of the field. So in this case, end phase activates this. Let's say you summon 2 tokens. You can activate Token Collector that you search from your hand or from the graveyard. Summon it. Destroy the tokens you just summoned to your opponent's board so that they don't accumulate any additional free resources. And then no more tokens can be special summoned. Next turn, you have free link material. So every single turn, this card is live for the rest of the duel, because it basically summons itself back whenever a token is special summoned, and it can summon itself back from the graveyard, not just from the hand. So it's a hand trap and like a graveyard trap also. Also, you can like discard it off a Super Poly, and it'll just be there. It'll just be like a live card ready to go. But that is everything in the main deck. Next, let's go to the... No, I'm sorry. That is everything, all of the monsters. Next, for the spells. 3 copies of Lair of Darkness. This is the heart and soul of the deck. I've tried my best to build it in a way where you don't specifically have to rely on Lair of Darkness. You can do other stuff, but still, obviously, the deck is like way better with it. We play 1 copy of Terraforming. Very important, obviously. Searches the field spell. You want to get to the field spell as fast as possible. Next, we have Pot of Prosperity to make this deck unbelievably consistent. You can replace this with Pot of Extravagance, but then you have to adjust the extra deck just a little bit. If you're going to play the Pot of Extravagance, yeah, definitely have to adjust that. But yeah, Pot of Prosperity is very, very strong in the deck, of course, because it just helps you get to the pieces that you need. If you have a Fiend level 3, then you have to get the Ties of the Brethren. If you have Ties of the Brethren, you have to get to the Fiend level 3. If you don't have the field spell, you got to get to it. So Pot of Prosperity really, really helps you do that. In addition to that, Pot of Prosperity is very good for baiting Ash, because if you activate it, your opponent is going to try and Ash you. Like if they're a smart opponent, they're usually going to Ash you, and if they're a dumb opponent, they're still going to Ash you. Like this card, they'll just look at the price and be like, okay, well, I have to Ash it. So Pot of Prosperity, definitely 3 of that. 3 Ties of the Brethren. This is what lets you get off. I'll show you the combo at the end, but basically, yes, that's what it helps you get that off. Next, we play 3 copies of Super Poly. Extremely broken going first, extremely broken going second. You just set it, forget it. And if your field spell is on the field, you basically have monster removal. If your opponent starts going off, cool, you can go off all you want. I'm going to fuse 3 of your monsters, and I'm going to put either Token Collector in the grave or Tour Bus of the Underworld, and then do additional stuff. So that's very, very good. Now, for the traps. The traps are definitely, there's been some changes with the traps. I used to play the Artifact engine. I've cut that recently to play other stuff. First of all, we play 3 copies of Eradicator Epidemic Virus. This is the best virus, like by far. This is by far the best virus. And usually, out of your own deck, you have Heavenly Spheres to summon it. If you want to tribute one of your own monsters, you tribute Heavenly Prison. And if you want to tribute your opponent's monster, you've got free range to tribute whatever you want. So obviously it kills back row decks. You win that matchup. Whenever you use this against a back row deck, whatever they're playing, unless they're playing like Eldritch, sometimes that can actually help them. But other than Eldritch, you basically win most back row matchups because you can destroy spells or traps and then they're basically screwed. Next, we play 3 copies of Full Force Virus. I never used to use this card before because, again, you have to rely on Diabolos, and Diabolos is like sometimes you would be able to get a summon off, sometimes you wouldn't. This build is a lot more consistent with getting to a 2,000 or more defense, or 2,000 or less. Was it 2,000 or more defense monster? Yeah, 2,000 or more defense monster. This version is very, very consistent with getting to that because you have the Alice, Lady of Lament. This card is a 2000. This card's actually 0 attack, 2,000 defense, so it's always live. Like the Full Force 100% is always live in this version of the deck. Because again, we're using Ties of the Brethren to get to it, so things are always looking good. And then also, if you really wanted to, Token Collector is also 2,000 defense. And of course, Lord of the Heavenly Prison is also 3,000 defense. But I mean, it's also 2,000 defense at least. So all 3 of those cards are super easy to get on the board, and all 3 of them fit Full Force Virus. Full Force Virus is actually one of the better viruses as long as you can activate it early and they don't get any link monsters. But it basically destroys every monster with 1,500 or less defense. So definitely playing that. 1 copy of Metaverse. The only reason this is at 3 is because of Mystic Mine. And I'd like Mystic Mine to get banned so I can play 3 of this again, because it makes the deck way more consistent. 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. This is just, I mean, it's good going second because sometimes you got to hand trap your opponent, and obviously it's very good going first because you can just set a negate with Tour Guide and you're good to go. And then since you set it in a column, you can negate stuff even further. 3 copies of Skill Drain. This is new to the deck. Skill Drain is something I'm playing in this deck because Skill Drain is disgusting. All of your tribute effects are cost. So even if, let's say you have Arima on field, if you activate Arima tribute itself, you're still getting your search. Everything's still good to go. Lilith, same thing. If you tribute Lilith, you're still good to go. So if you need to search, you're good. But what's awesome about Skill Drain is you can always pay cost under Skill Drain. So if you have the Lair of Darkness on the field, you activate Lilith, tribute your opponent's monster, you don't get your effect, but you basically have spot removal for anything you want. Skill Drain is extremely, extremely good in this deck. Like, it almost doesn't hurt us at all. It just, the only time it hurts us is when Lilith is trying to resolve its effect while tributing another monster. That is it. Other than that, Skill Drain is beautiful in this deck. It does everything you want to. Lord of the Heavenly Prison, same thing. If you have Skill Drain on the field, all of his effects resolve in the hand. So your opponent has to negate this in the hand. Skill Drain would have to negate this in the hand, which it can't. It only negates on the field. So when you activate a card, you special summon this, and then after this is special summon, you get to set any Yu-Gi-Oh card, any spell or trap card into your back row. It still resolves because it all activates in the hand. Skill Drain is extremely good in this deck. Like, it's scary. It is very, very good in this deck, and obviously it beats a lot of other matchups because they just can't go off, they can't combo. And then this one's weird. This last card is really weird. Macrocosmos. This one's weird. I discovered this in a tag duel. I was tag dueling, and my teammate was playing Gren Maju, and I thought this card would completely wreck my deck. Just the opposite. It actually hurts every other deck in the meta. It really doesn't hurt you. Your graveyard isn't really that important. The only graveyard effect that you really use is the Token Collector, and very, very sparsely the Alice, Lady of Lament, the normal summon, special summon back. That's it. Other than that, you really, really don't use your graveyard all that much. It's not that important to you. If you have Macrocosmos and like Lilith on the field, with the field spell, it's disgusting because you activate Lilith, tribute their monster for cost. Their monster gets banished. They can never get it back. If they have floating effects, it's basically, you can basically get rid of crazy things. Like, for example, let's say you're playing against, let's say you're playing against Dragon Link and they summon Black Metal Dragon. You activate Lilith, tribute their Black Metal Dragon under Macrocosmos, it gets banished. Their turn is basically over. They can't search and their monster's gone because they got banished and sent to graveyard. Same thing with Altergeist. If they're playing Altergeist, they summon Altergeist, Meluseek, you just activate Lilith, tribute the Meluseek gets banished, and then they can't search, their turn is over. Like, this card is so, so, so good in combination with a lot of these other cards. So those are the trap cards. Let me go to the extra deck real quick. The extra deck is quite simple. It's a lot of super poly targets and some other stuff. We play 1 Starving Venom. You can bump this to 2 if you feel like you need it. 1 Predaplant, Draco Spalea. This one's good against both Dragoon and Phoenix Enforcer. It's just good against both. Fusion Monster and a Dark Monster. It's going to happen. We've got Mud Dragon of the Swamp. Extremely good under Lair of Darkness because every single monster on the field becomes the same attribute. So things are going down. 1 Predaplant, Chimera Flesia. Again, this card is another one that's really, really good under... This card is really good under... this card is really good against Phoenix Enforcer and Phoenix Enforcer and Dragoon. Very good against both those cards, and both of them are very prevalent in the metagame because you basically activate it and it uses 1 Predaplant and 1 Dark Monster, so you can just use their, for example, Phoenix Enforcer, which is a Dark Monster, and you can use their Predaplant, which is the Verde Anaconda that they use to special summon their monster in the first place. But yeah, this card's very, very good. And then what it does is when it's in the graveyard, you can like search Super Poly. It's very good. We play 1 copy of the 3-headed Dark Monster. Basically, this is just any 3 Dark Monsters on the field. So, I mean, come on, that's really, really good. And it also has an effect to negate a summon. First of the Dragons. Use this card against the tokens that you summon during the end phases. So every single end phase, you can summon your basically tokens are special summoned to the field, and tokens count as normal monsters. This basically requires 2 normal monsters, and you can also use, like, for example, Sword Soul tokens and Adventure tokens also to make this thing. This card has a very good effect where it can't be destroyed by battle by an effect monster. In addition to that, it can't be it's unaffected by other monster effects. So if your opponent doesn't play main decked, like if they don't play spawn trap removal for monsters, this card basically wins you the game because they can't get rid of it. Next, we play a little XYZ package. We play 1 copy of the Phantom Knight of Breaksword. We have a ton of level 3s. You've seen them. 1 copy of Downer Magician, and you guessed it, the Divine Arsenal Zeus, because obviously Zeus is extremely easy. It's a 3-card engine, so if you don't care about it, you can just banish it off of the Pot of Prosperity. Basically, if you're going to banish one of them, you're going to banish all of them, because you're not going to keep just one of that. And now, the rest of the extra deck, the links, we play 1 All Mirage, just in case we draw just Sangan. Like, if it's a little bit of a bricky hand, you can use this. This also has a tribute effect. 1 copy of Beat Cop. This card's another good. It's a monster in your extra deck that allows you to tribute, so it continues the Lair of Darkness engine. It tributes and then basically protects a card. We've got Dark, the Dark Charmer. This is another card that's new, that's really good in the deck, because it's a Dark Monster and any other monster, and it lets you summon a Dark Monster from your opponent's graveyard. Dark is basically the most prevalent attribute in the game. Most people will use Dark, so this card is extremely good for that. And this card's good. It summons any Dark Monster out of their graveyard. Most of the time, you can get off some crazy stuff. Like, you can summon their Phoenix Enforcer back. You can summon their Dragoon back. You can summon any properly summoned monster. 1 copy of IP Masquerena for tricky plays. 1 copy of Unicorn. And then 1 Access Code Talker if we need to finish games and we've already used the fusions or something like that. But that is the extra deck. Let me show you a couple, like, I don't even want to call them combos because, you know, it's more of like a, it's not a super combo-y deck, but I'll show you some of the combos that you can do. It's more of like a control-ish deck. So I don't want to sit here and... This isn't going to be like a 1-card 7 negates, but the deck is very consistent in what it does, and it does it very well. So here's what you have to do this combo. Basically, you need to start with any of these. So any of these monsters, any of the Lilith, Alice, Sangan, Lilith, Tour Bus, Tour Guide. Like, as long as you start with any of those and Ties of the Brethren, you're on the road to what needs to happen. So basically, pick any of these and any copy of Ties of the Brethren. And of course, Ties of the Brethren is very consistent. We have 6 copies of 3 copies of Ties of the Brethren, and then we have the Pot of Prosperity. So we'll usually, most of the time, you do get to it. And then we've got all of these right here. So you almost always see the monsters that you need to see. But let's say, for example, we start with Lilith. just Lilith and Ties of the Brethren. And then the combo is obviously better if you have the field spell, which again, we play 8 copies of the field spell. So let's say we do have this field spell. Whether we do or we don't, I'll show you the combo with both. So what you're basically going to do is you're going to normal summon Lilith. We're going to activate Ties of the Brethren. Ties of the Brethren will allow us to summon Fiend Dark monsters from our deck that are level 3. So we're going to special summon the Alice and the Sangan to our side of the field. And now you can activate Lair of Darkness if you have it, just so we get tokens. We'll just activate it here to avoid the confusion. Activate Lair of Darkness. Now we can activate Lilith. As of right now, we're going to tribute the Sangan. Sangan goes to grave to reveal 3 traps and then set one of them. If you reveal 3 of the same, you're basically guaranteed to get it. We're going to reveal 3 copies of Full Force, so we're going to get 1 Full Force, and we're going to have that ready to go in our back row. So we have this here. Yep, Sangan's going to now activate in the following chain link. And Sangan is going to allow us to search Ash Blossom. So Sangan's way out here. And now we basically activate Lair of Darkness, set the Full Force virus, and we have Ash in hand. So we already have multiple interruptions here. So basically from here on in, we're just going to pass. Ash can now be activated since it's not the same turn. It's our opponent's turn now. Now we can just, as soon as they start their turn, it's usually best to do it as soon as they start because all their cards are still in their hand. Activate Full Force, tribute the Alice, Lady of Lament, and basically it destroys, we'll leave it up here, it destroys all monsters that are in their hand with 1500 or less defense. A lot of monsters that like will start your combo are small monsters. So for example, Alistair the Invoker gets destroyed. A lot of other cards get destroyed. It's very good for the beginning like that because it like just shreds their entire hand. Then we are going to activate the Alice, Lady of Lament, since that was tributed, to add whatever we want actually. So what you can do with this one, with the Alice, Lady of Lament, is you can add Token Collector, which is very good against the Adventure package, or you can just add depending on what you have in your hand, you can add a Tour Bus, or the Tour Guide, you can add another Lilith, or you can add the Tour Bus. The Tour Bus is interesting because, like, let's say you have like a Super Poly. If you discard this card for cost, you can Super Poly your opponent, and then in the following chain link, you can activate this to shuffle back whatever they have in their graveyard back into their deck. So it's almost like kind of like a DD Crow. But most of the time you'll just take the Token Collector because it's just easier to take the Token Collector. It's an additional interruption. Since we are going to tribute 2 monsters this turn. The Lair of Darkness will summon 2 tokens to our opponent's side of the field, but we're going to prevent that. So from here on in, we still haven't used Lilith, and we still haven't tributed one of our opponent's monsters. So if our opponent continues to go off, despite us using the Full Force virus, we can activate Lilith, tribute their monster, whatever they're going to summon, in order to reveal 3 traps. Again, it doesn't matter what you reveal, but typically I'll just reveal 3 Eradicators to have the Eradicator. Obviously, if they pop our field spell, for example, we'll reveal Metaverse or whatever we need to. So we'll use this, set it in our back row, tribute one of their monsters. So far we've put them in a virus, tributed their monster. We have the Ash if we need to, and then end phase, if they're done with the turn, end phase, this is going to spawn 2 tokens to their side of the board. We're going to activate Token Collector, special summon it to destroy the tokens. Now they have no tokens, they have no field, they have nothing. And the next turn, we can just continue to play. And the great thing about this deck is it just goes plus every single turn. And you can just keep doing the same thing over and over. Heavenly Prison, you can keep summoning stuff. Now that you have all of these extra monsters on board, the Token Collector, you can just link off, and when tokens get special summoned back during our opponent's turn, we can just basically keep canceling whatever the tokens that they would have gotten every single turn. And of course, like I said, we've got the Eradicator Epidemic Virus ready to go. But yes, that is the deck profile. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have any recommendations or any changes that you think I should make, let me know in the comments. But thank you for watching.